Okay, there's only one foundational document that you need to know about in the executive branch unit, and that's Federalist Paper number 70. So Fed 70 is the third Federalist paper we're going to talk about. We talked about Federalist 10, which is all about factions, Federalist 51, which is about checks and balances and separation of powers, and federalism. We did talk about Brutus 1, which is the anti-Federalist paper, but this is really the third Federalist paper we're going to look at. So though Washington is pictured first on the screen, this is a Federalist paper that is written by Alexander Hamilton, the topic, the subject of everybody's favorite Broadway musical. All right. So there are really two parts to Hamilton's thesis involving Federalist 70. So this is predominantly a paper that's just about like the presidency and the type of president that was created by the Constitution. There were many people that were concerned that the Constitution created a president. We're back to putting power in the hands of a single individual. So there were some that had argued after they looked at the details of the Constitution that the Constitution was making this individual too powerful. So Hamilton's like response to that is that the country needs a strong executive, right? Um, this is sort of a passage from Federalist 70. Energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of a good government. So he uses energy a little bit different, but you should know what energy means. He uses it differently than like how we would use energy. For him, energy means powerful, strong, decisive. That's a necessary characteristic of a good government and a good leader. And that if you read through the rest of it, talking about it's essential for the protection of the community. You scroll down to the bottom, a feeble executive implies a feeble execution of government. The idea that like if you have a weak executive, a weak president, you're correspondingly going to just have a weak government to go along with it. Think back to the Articles of Confederation system. No real executive to speak of, and that government was a mess. So the first part of Federalist 70 is Hamilton arguing against those that were saying that the Constitution had wrongly created a strong president. His argument in response is it has to be that way. Energy in an executive, power, decisiveness is necessary for a good government. The second part of his thesis in Federalist 70 is in response to an idea that got a lot of traction at the Constitutional Convention. Some argued that putting power in the hands of one person was a bad idea. So why have one president or one executive when you could have like multiple executives? You could have two presidents, or you could have a council of presidents. So Hamilton was adamant that there should only be one executive, a single executive that was powerful. So these were his arguments against those that called for a multiple executive system, like multiple presidents. The first thing he argues is that having a single executive, one president, definitely makes it easier, more efficient, and quicker to make like critical decisions. That if it's just one person that needs to make a decision, naturally that's going to be something that can be arrived at quicker than if you have like a council of presidents that are inevitably going to disagree with each other. It's going to be like slower decision making and like less getting done, or at least things not getting done quick enough. If you had an emergency, it's easier for one person to deal with that than having like a bunch of different opinions all try to figure out the best approach to deal with it. So that a single president can just be more efficient and can more quickly manage crisis situations and make critical decisions. Also, Hamilton's belief was that if you had multiple executives, that would really serve to divide the American population. Like, for example, if you had two presidents and they disagreed with each other, you would have some segments of the population line up to support one, and then other people would support the other, and now you're splitting the American public down the middle, which he thought was a bad idea. Um, Also, he thought that one of the problems of having multiple presidents would be that you would never know who to properly blame when things went wrong because they would just blame each other. That's important for the citizens to know who made mistakes so that they aren't made again. And then it would be just too difficult to assign blame when needed if the executives, if there were more than one, were all just going to point fingers at one another. And the last thing is, it's more of a practical argument, is that it would just be too costly to pay for multiple presidents. If each president was going to draw a salary and it was going to be a significant salary, it would be a drain on the early country's treasury that it didn't need or couldn't afford to have multiple presidents collecting a paycheck. So again, just in review, Hamilton's key thesis in Federalist 70 is the need for a strong, energetic, singular president, and that would benefit the nation as we move forward.